An artist is supposed to be creative and make original works, isn't it? Yes, they are creative, but what about being original? In fact, no artist is completely unique, and no piece of artwork is completely original. And the greatest ability an artist could have is the ability to steal art from people without being noticed. Of course, I'm not saying something illegal like stealing the Mona Lisa painting from the Louvre Museum. Today, I will introduce you to the book Steal Like an Artist, written by Austin Kleon, the book that unleashes your unlimited creativity. If you're any type of creator, like a photographer, painter, writer, or content creator, or plan to become one of them, this book is a perfect fit for you. If you're interested in getting the book on Amazon, please check the link in the description below. Now, let's get started. Every artist will get the exact same question. Where do you get your ideas? The honest artist will answer, I steal them. Artists don't come up with ideas by themselves. They steal from others. So, to think like an artist, you stop judging whether others' works are good or bad. You only consider whether they are worth stealing or not worth stealing. But if you say all artists steal from others, then how can they be so unique in their own way? The author would say originality is just undetected plagiarism. Every new idea is just a remix of one or more previous ideas. And not only are all ideas not original, but you and I are not unique either. Your gene is just a remix of your mom and your dad, and so am I. So most of the new things in this world are just a combination of old things. So if you decide to become a good artist of any form, your job isn't to come up with anything new on your own. You just steal as much as you can from the artworks you love. For a painter, you can steal the color style, the technique, and the composition. For a writer, you steal the ideas, the story setting, and the choice of words. While stealing from a single artwork is plagiarism, stealing from 10 artworks suddenly becomes original. Stealing from one artwork is rather easy and straightforward, but stealing from 10 needs your effort to take components from different pieces and merge them into your own artwork in your own way. So starting from today, carry a notebook and a pen with you. Jot down any new idea you like. As a content creator, I love to jot down awesome quotes I love, ideas I want to try, or any opening that catches my eye. And when I need some ideas for my work, I will just open the notebook. Don't wait until you know who you are. I have always been thinking about making YouTube videos since 5 years ago, but I haven't started until 2026. I was too afraid and had too many excuses like, I'm not good enough. I have nothing profound to talk about, or many people are doing the same thing as me, and they're way better than me. But I realized I'm wrong. What I was completely wrong about is that I forgot they are just normal humans, and they're not that good from day one. The difference between me and those people are they just start making things and messing around from day one. And even though they didn't have a single clue about what they were making, they just started. At the very beginning, you won't have an idea of who you are, so you just pretend to be the type of person you want to become. I started this channel very recently, but I persuaded myself to be a professional YouTuber. A pro YouTuber would have a work schedule and post videos on schedule regardless of what happens, so I also do the same. A pro YouTuber would have set up a working station at home, so I also set up one. I will ask myself if I'm indeed a pro YouTuber, how would I deliver my message to the audience? And my answer is that I don't know as well. So what I do is to learn from the video script from other top creators in the same niche as me and try to copy something from them. And copying is not something shameful. When we were babies, we copied languages and behaviors from our parents. When we were teenagers, we copied from friends to get approvals. And now, when we turn to adults, we copy techniques from our colleagues, from somebody's works, and from anything we love. Musicians copy the music they love. Athletes copy techniques from better athletes. and painters learn to paint by reproducing masterpieces. Kobe Bryant once said that all of his moves on the court were stolen from his heroes. But he realized he can't reproduce those moves 100%, as he didn't have the same body as his heroes. So he eventually adapted those moves and came up with his version that fit with his body. Just like a quote from Yohji Yamamoto, "And at the end of the copy, you will find yourself." In the journey of copying, you'll not be able to replicate everything successfully, and you will come up with your own styles. Those styles will become your truly unique things. So what should you create? Every content creator will face similar problems, especially an inexperienced one. What video should I make? What post should I post? Or what photograph should I take? The very standard answer is to create what you know. But this advice actually sucks. Every human being knows a lot of stuff, or is even good at a lot of stuff. Just following this idea could lead to a terrible situation. The problem is that what you are creating is not interesting at all, because you don't care about your work enough. Much better advice is to create what you like. When we like what we create and we're proud of what we create, we're desperate to create more. If you don't know what you like, you can even imagine you are the final audience or the final user of the work that you will be creating. If you're a game developer, you can create the game that you enjoy playing. If you're a music creator, you create music you enjoy listening to. And if you're a writer, you write a book that you enjoy reading. And for my case, I make a video that is useful for myself. I make the book summary of Ultralearning by Scott Young that guides me through the necessary steps to get started on YouTube, using techniques like meta-learning to plan what I need to learn beforehand, direct practice to jump straight to the project, and drilling to improve a specific area of the subject. Then I make another video about Atomic Habit that helps me to stay as consistent as possible for a long period of time in order to get results. And of course, I educate myself on how to steal ideas from other content creators through this book, Steal Like an Artist. These books are all extremely relevant for my work, and I'm literally the main audience of this channel, at least up to this moment. Use your hands. I use computers a lot. You use computers a lot. We all use computers a lot. American adults spend about 10 to 12 hours a day on all devices, including phones, tablets, computers, and TVs. While we all love computers, I think all types of screens have robbed us of the feeling to be creative. When we're using a computer, the only two things we interact with are the mouse and keyboard. Also, everything displayed on the computer is so perfect that it is somehow discouraging creativity. Sometimes being creative just means making mistakes, but computers operate in a way that is hard to display messy things. That's why sometimes it is hard to get things done on a computer in the first place. To address this problem, the author will set up two workstations. One is analog, which means no screens, but maybe books, drawings, photos, and pens. Another workstation is digital, which is basically a desk with a computer and a digital drawing board. The analog workstation is good for getting the ideas out. I could imagine there are a bunch of mind maps and even drawings that illustrate ideas for his book, as Austin calls himself the writer who also draws. And after he gets all the ideas out on the papers, he would move over to the digital workstation to turn his ideas into words on the computer, so he can eventually publish his books. I also find this quite useful in my work. Although I don't really have a space to have two workstations separately, I used to get ideas out on paper and finish my first draft also on paper before typing them out on my computer. In this way, I can focus more on the content without worrying about making mistakes. And then I'll type them on my computer, turning a draft into a craft. Side projects and hobbies are important. If you have 2 or 3 passions or hobbies like me, don't throw them away and pick one. It's really important to have one or more hobbies that you don't try to make money from or try to get famous with. The value of the hobby is not something external. The value is the hobby itself. So you can be really creative and do what you want without considering how it will perform. This is really important to keep your mind sane and healthy and recover your mental energy after you feel exhausted on your main job. When I'm tired of work, I like to learn some Japanese or play table tennis. And for Austin, he was obsessed with songwriting and playing in bands when he was a teenager. But then he decided to focus on writing only, so he spent half a decade without music in his life. He described the pain as a phantom limb that got worse and worse. Not until 1 year before writing this book did he start playing in a band again. He finally realized that the music is not taking time and energy away from his writing. Music actually brings ideas to him and makes his writing even better. So maybe hobbies and side projects are like mental food that provides nutrition and energy to your brain. And without hobbies, you can still survive, but it is definitely a harder time for you. Do good work and share it with people. Every artist wants to become famous or at least known by society. There's a not very secret way to become known by the world from Austin. First, do good work, and second, share it with people. Not until there was a thing called the internet, both steps were very difficult. Doing good work is really challenging. Sharing your work is even harder without the internet. But nowadays, it's super easy to share on social media like Instagram, X, YouTube, and more. And it's accurate to say that if a thing is not on the internet nowadays, it does not exist in this world. Nobody is going to come to your home and see your artwork. And of course, nobody is going to watch this video if it's not on YouTube. But what if you tell me you're not good enough to share your work? Okay, let me tell you one thing. If you're not that good at your work yet, nobody actually cares about what you do and what you think. It sounds harsh, but people are just as busy as you. Would you have the time to care about an unknown artist that creates mediocre work? No, that's why other people won't have the time for your work for the same reason. But not getting attention is not a bad thing either. When there is nobody seeing your work, you can literally experiment with whatever you want and post whatever you want. Why do you feel pressure if nobody is seeing your work? So even if you're not that good, or you just started, you should still share your work on the internet. Because your works don't even exist if they are not on the internet. The author emphasizes the concept of sharing your work so much that he wrote his next book called Show Your Work. The main idea of that book is simple. Doing good work is not enough. You need to share your work in order to be findable by others. I'll also put the link to this book in the description. Feel free to check this out. Geography is no longer our master. Before the internet and social media became so popular, our destiny was basically decided by where we were living. The city you live in decides the school you go to, the job you work, and the people you can meet. While where we live still affects our lives nowadays, we are no longer ruled by it anymore. Especially after COVID-19, we now have way more remote works and freelance works than before. So you literally have a chance to work across countries. And with social media, you can share your work freely and connect with anybody without limitation. But saying that geography is no longer our master doesn't mean you should just stick to your hometown. Our brains get too comfortable when we're living in the same place for years, eating the same meal, and meeting the same group of people every week. At some point, you need to leave your hometown to get your brain uncomfortable again. It is worth trying to live in a different country that speaks a different language. By exploring new things, the world looks completely new again. Only by simulating our brains enough can our brains work harder and have better insight in order to create better works. Should you quit your day job? Many creators think they should quit their day job from day one and start their own business as a personal brand. But Austin encourages us to keep our day job for 3 reasons. First, even if you're lucky enough to make a living off what you love to do, it will still take a while, like months or years. So you still need to have a job that gives you money to sustain your life. Second, a day job connects you to society. I'm not sure if it's just me. I spent most of the time working alone for my channel, which brought me a feeling of disconnection from society. Third, a day job gives you a routine to have something to work on every day. You might think having 8 hours of free time sounds like living in heaven, but the fact is that it will only get very boring very quickly. Creative is subtraction. You might think that being creative is about having an unlimited number of options, but in fact, being creative is about limiting our options. When we put constraints on ourselves, we need to come up with new ideas to overcome the constraints, simply because the old method doesn't work anymore. One of the useful constraints we can put on ourselves is the time constraint. You are forced to come up with methods that are way more efficient than before. You can try something like sketching a person in 1 minute, writing a song in a lunchtime, or even coding a game in the afternoon. Many of the great products are designed due to big constraints. 20 years ago, nobody could have imagined that our phones would have no buttons on them. Before we had modern smartphones, mobile phones looked something like this. But there was a guy called Steve Jobs who had been dreaming of a phone without buttons. He put tremendous effort into making the iPhone, the first phone with almost no buttons, in 2007. And then all mobile companies just copy from iPhone and become a convention nowadays. If you can find a good constraint that you love, you might be able to find your own style. Just like some photographers only take photos in black and white instead of color ones, and still manage to become world-class photographers. This is the end of the video. Steal Like an Artist, written by Austin Kleon, is an awesome book for anyone who wants to become more creative, providing principles and practical suggestions for creators to unleash their creativity at work. If you're interested in this book, please find the Amazon link in the description below. If you like the video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.